I was like,
That's a great question.
okay, so we
should.
got a meeting on the 22nd.
Actually, I'd give you a ride there. The wind was at your back on the way home.
I'm really glad that I wrote that, you know what I mean? I was like, as I was
No,
reading
that's
it,
a
I was
great
like,
question.
crap, I thought we were
Call to order the St. Joseph City Council of February 7th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, public comments. Anybody wishing to, Alec, you want to come up and say anything? No? Okay. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second, approving the agenda. Any changes? No changes. Motion and second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. Item 4, consent agenda. Motion and second on the consent agenda. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5. Are we, Laura, is this you or is this,
This is me.
okay?
So a couple times a year, we'll look at if there's some delinquent utility billing accounts. In the case of what's before you tonight, it's final bills for where people had moved out that are still outstanding. We had 6 accounts to start with when we sent out notices. 3 have paid, and there's still 3 outstanding for a total of $475.30. So our process works well where we send out notifications. In some cases, there might be a new owner in that property that would now see this assessment next year to pay. Those owners reach out to me, and we're pretty successful in reaching out to the title companies and getting things straightened out. So if they make the call to us, we get it taken care of, usually pretty quickly. So going
Okay.
through the formal process of trying to take care of these accounts now.
Okay, so that, with that being said, we're gonna open up the public hearing, consideration of resolution 2022-06, delinquent accounts. Anybody wishing to step forward? Anybody online? YouTube? Anybody in Zoom? Okay, very good. Seeing no one come to the podium, we're gonna close the public hearing and accept council decisions or comments.
So now we're just considering adopting, correct?
Yes, adopt the resolution.
Yeah, I'll move to adopt resolution 2022-006, certifying the delinquent accounts.
Motion and second, adopting resolution 2022-006, adopting assessment outstanding invoices. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Lori. Item 6, CVB. Want me to lead this one?
You can, yeah, absolutely.
It's up to you. So the CVB, I understand there's some issues about the appointment process last time. And I'm gonna go, I'll go through this as fast as I can. I mean, there's some history to it. Under Judy and I as mayor and Dale as EDA chair, we established the CVB. That's one of the documents in the packet, I think. Then it moved to, and it really, brand new organization, how we're still, we're evolving, trying to figure out what to do. Then somewhere along the line, Chris Ambule took over, and I was still mayor, Dale was still EDA chair. What we failed to do between Judy and Chris, and then eventually Chris and Therese, is we failed to establish that organization as a functioning government entity, like the planning commission or the park board or all those things. I recently just sent you, counselors, an email on the, I don't know what you call it, it's kind of the establishment of, or the goals behind establishing the CVB, what the organization would look like, how it could function, organizational structures of a CVB versus a destination marketing organization, and then some of the bylaws that go by it. If you notice in our book of ordinance, we have established by ordinance, park board, planning commission, all those other things. So the next step here is what it, you know, again, number one, I'd like to move forward with the appointment process. But at the same time, we need to complete establishing CVB as an official organization within the city. And direct staff to come up with, is that on the list? Or on the agenda? Establish, or is it?
No, it's just appointments.
Establishing, a CVB establishing resolution, right? That's the establishing resolution, but is the draft ordinance something that we're looking at?
Yeah, so it's this
So-
evening, yeah.
Yeah, so in the
direction on that.
packet is a draft ordinance that would establish the CVB physically, like we do the planning commission and everything else. It goes into our code of ordinances, and so there's two real things. Number one, I'd like approval on the CVB appointments as presented, and then talk about and give direction to staff on CVB ordinance as a organization.
So we're talking about the appointments right now.
Yeah, that will, first, yeah, absolutely. Number one is the CV, to establish the appointments or complete the appointments.
Because I had a couple of questions because, looking at the past year, and because of, we had two new counselors coming on, there was always, you had to kind of reappoint them. But looking at those, Nate was always on there as the director, and then that's why I had the questions, because then he was off, and then you were the chair. However, when looking at the list, there was, on the EDA list, there really isn't an appointed chair or appointed director. So, that's what I wanted clarification on, is, Nate, which there was a couple of questions of saying Nate can still be at those meetings, because I think he's a very good resource for the CVB. I think with what his background and he has, so that was my question. And then, having two council members on it, because that's what I was noticing too, is there's kind of there's two councils on the EDA, two councils on the CVB. And so I wanted some clarification on that.
And so the EDA chair doesn't have to be an elected official. It could be any member of the any member that's appointed to the EDA.
Okay.
So in that case, if Doug Danielson were the EDA chair, he'd be attending the CVB meetings. It's just, I'm the EDA chair, I just got voted on again as the EDA chair.
Which we did at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just basically, at the last EDA meeting, Rick was on with Zoom, the
And
rest
so
of
you
us
do that with
were
the
there.
director too then? So do you
We
vote
just-
on the
we
director?
just
too?
kept
No,
everything the
He's
same.
always the director.
He's all the EDA
Okay.
director.
I think Nate should stay on that, because that's a common connection between a outlying committee and the city. You know, and Nate's more up front, or more in the front lines of anything happening in the city than the rest of us. So it would be detrimental or unbeneficial to have him not on that board, because it's a direct connection to the city.
In establishing it as a government agency, the agency reports directly to the political leadership. It can be the mayor, it can be a council member, it can be the commission, it can be the EDA director.
I think it would be
And in that case, he does stay involved.
He's the staff liaison.
right, but I think it'd be better
Well-
communication if you have the economic development director directly involved with the CVB, whatever, you know.
And so, well,
In
you
my
have it,
opinion.
you have it written in here, and that would be in the it's on the appointments here that it says staff liaison do not need to be appointed in order to attend.
Right.
But is that will that be in
Well,
the,
we can
what
direct
do we call that, the ordinance or the resolution?
we can certainly direct staff to include that.
Okay,
I mean, that's what this, I don't know what you call it, the draft CVB ordinance. I mean, that's what we want them to include as a draft that will be presented to the CVB and get
Well,
their
then we're
feedback.
putting
before-
the cart before the horse, because we don't even have an established resolution.
Right, that's the
establishing
second part.
CVB as a organization, so before we even appoint people to that board, we should establish a resolution with a conversation between the full council to see if whatever the resolution reads establishes the
That makes
board the way the council sees.
I get what you're saying.
You know, so I'm sure there's other CVBs out there. There might be something to you know, to piggyback off of as far as language and how it was done.
So-
and how the members are either appointed or elected amongst themselves, you know?
So to clarify, just so I understand you correctly, is that you would want them to bring, so that we okay that first with that
Correct.
wording in there, and
Correct,
then
yeah.
okay the appointment of?
Right.
Okay,
This way, the appointments would be subject to the resolution, the establishment of the resolution to establish the CVB. Right now, there is no why, what, and where to put appointments on there,
developing.
whether it be 5 members, 7 members, you know,
The establishing resolution states it.
where, we don't have one.
Yeah,
It's in your packet.
Yeah, I don't have my packet.
Oh,
but that isn't in that.
Yeah,
that-
just to clarify, Mayor Schultz is correct, that in the establishing resolution, the initial resolution that was adopted, I think it was 2018? 2018, it did actually set up all those parameters regarding membership and who would be on
Okay.
there and the terms, all that.
So why are we doing it again?
I.
From what I'm gathering here, we're looking at doing
Where
it
does
again
it
if it's
say
already
staff?
established.
We're
Staff
formalizing it as a government agency.
Well, when we establish it, that is formalization.
Well, and that's true about park commission, or park board, planning commission, but we formalize those as government agencies through the ordinance process. We're doing the same thing for the CVB.
It should have been under that criteria when we established it in 2018. I mean, look, go back in the minutes, but that would be the criteria
But we
right there.
can't go back to 2018. We're here today.
Well, it should have
we-
been established in 2018 because they've been in operation since then.
Absolutely, it should have been, but it's
Right.
not. So now we're moving forward with the next step, which is establishing it by ordinance.
So much like the planning commission, Nate is the staff lead on that. He's a staff liaison. This is no different. In that ordinance, it doesn't say community development director serves, but you certainly could add that to the CVB
I would like
ordinance if
that,
you wanted to.
I would like that added to it.
But, you know, otherwise it's in his job description as well, so.
Right.
it-
But I think that's a break of communication if you don't officially put the EDA director in there. It's a chain of command
So-
type deal.
So include that in the CVB ordinance as a
Yeah, we
draft.
can do that.
And again, we're not changing anything from the establishing. We're simply, right now, approving the appointments, getting them direction on
Well, how many
establishing.
can be appointed to this?
Up to 10.
Up to 10.
No, minimum of 7.
I just
And
don't
it
wanna
says if it
over-
goes under 7, then the EDA would step in with one of their members until appointed.
Mr. Klusner?
I move to move forward with the CVB appointments as presented.
I second.
Motion and second, approval of the CVB appointments.
With the
further questions
addition
or-
of the economic development director on that board.
No. Motion and second to approve the CVB appointments as presented. Further questions or concerns?
You know, I'd like to add the economic development director in that paragraph.
Well, that's the
That's
second.
not the motion.
I know, I'm amending the motion then.
All right. Do you want to make a motion to that effect, Bob?
What's that?
You want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah,
And what is the
I
motion?
amended the motion to add
The-
that.
The amending motion also needs a second.
To clarify, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we're just doing the appointments right now.
That's it,
The second part is to discuss the ordinance.
correct.
So that's how I understand it.
Okay,
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
without getting a second, motion and second to approve appointments as presented. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. So now the draft CVB ordinance is in front of you. Is there, I hope you've had a chance to read through it. I've sent all you counselors links on kind of the same organizational structures, destination marketing organizations, some of the language that an ordinance would hold. And so I would tell you to take a look at some of that information. Staff already has it, and they've already has a draft started. If there's anything else you need, can think of now or in the next several days, filter it to Teresa and Nate, and they'll present that you know, I think we could have enough time to get it to the CVB, get their feedback, and then back to us in 2 weeks.
So then, Mayor, is the goal of this ordinance then to bring the CVB to the same level as, like, planning?
Yes.
Okay.
It'd be another government agency within the city.
And does it still fall under the purview of the EDA?
It should.
I mean, that would be.
Yeah, that'd be correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does the,
So the answers to EDA,
Yep.
yes.
right? Okay.
So does, I didn't get a chance to read the draft ordinance. Does it, well, I'll take a look at it and get back to you. I might have a couple of questions.
I mean, I think that's important, that if it doesn't fall under EDA, then that would be, because that's how it is now.
Yeah.
And that would be a problem.
Okay. Anything else? CVB? Okay, thank you, Paul. I lost track of where I'm at.
Ordinance amendments.
Oh, 7, ordinance amendments. Item 7. Who's got this one?
Yeah,
Therese?
I can take this one, yeah. So we have in your packet, 3 ordinances for you to consider, provide input. There are recommended motions before you to repeal and replace certain ones, and then also a brand-new ordinance, the massage therapy ordinance. So the first one is ordinance 104, administrative penalties and fees. That really establishes like the administrative citation process. So for those violations that you, it tends to be more effective, you can go through that avenue rather than taking it to the courts. So that's really cleanup language is what it is, for more clarity. That's really all that is. So it emulates St. Cloud, again, just for clarity purposes, so it flows better. And then ordinance 613, that's the new proposed massage establishment ordinance. And that was an ordinance that actually was recommended by the city of St. Cloud, actually a couple of years ago, maybe longer, in regards to being consistent with the area and then issues that they were having with some businesses in the area. So that ordinance emulates St. Cloud's as well. Sartell did pass an ordinance, I think we're going on 2 years now. For all practical purposes, theirs is very similar to St. Cloud, maybe just some minor language differences when it comes to home occupations. It would require a license process. Essentially, the establishment would have to get licensed, and as well as the therapist. And the things that we're looking for are, is it a clean facility, and then their operations, and then as far as the therapists themselves, we'd be looking at doing a background check on them for criminal history and so forth. And we would propose that we would work with St. Cloud on that. They have the knowledge, the skills, and the capacity to do that, so with their health inspections department. And lastly, the ordinance 1004 is related to regulation of animals. If you recall, in December, you had discussed, and actually even previously in November, you discussed animal licensing, dog licensing rather, and doing away with that. It still would require owners of dogs to have the rabies vaccination. That does not go away, but we don't do the licenses. So we had to update our ordinance to reflect that. Dangerous dog still applies. There's no changes with that. And then just a lot of cleanup language that didn't pertain. The one thing I do want to point out is we have folks that foster animals in the community, dogs, and as the currently ordinance is, you would have to get a kennel license. So we wanted to have an avenue that was easier and more clear with that. So if someone had 2 dogs, they could actually foster an additional 2, so they could have up to 4 to do that. So before you this evening are resolutions to adopt these ordinances, and then the last resolution would be to adopt the summary, and that's to allow us to publish, so we don't have to do the entire summary, which gets quite expensive. With that, I can take any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I got just a comment on therapeutic massage. establishments. And do we do the same thing with chiropractors? Because it's somewhat similar to the same concept.
It's a great question. They're actually licensed by the state. So that's actually in the draft ordinance too, as an exemption, because they are licensed to the state. Now, in 2020, there was proposed legislation at the state level on massage therapy. It has gone nowhere. So it went to the House, there was a bill reading, and that's where it's at. No update on that.
On that note, with some of this, Chief Feinstein, have you read through these and you're feeling comfortable with the changes and everything to it? And then, to my understanding, with the wording changes, is inviting, joining with St. Cloud, correct? Am I saying that correctly?
I think the biggest thing to understand is that St. Cloud does our prosecution
Okay.
for us, and this is their ordinance, and they've
Okay.
successfully prosecuted under this.
So we're
So
joining.
rather than reinventing the wheel, they've suggested this all the way back to 2015 for us to get this on the books, because they're just gonna push them out of St. Cloud and they're gonna settle in other areas.
Okay.
Sartell adopted this ordinance already, Wade Park has done that, now they're in St. Joe, so.
With the fee, now, does that fall upon us, or does that fall upon the business?
That's not
So
me.
I'll take on that
Okay.
question. So, thank you for that. So one of the things that we would need to do is if you do adopt this ordinance, we would bring back at the next meeting or subsequent meeting an amendment to the
On
fee
fees.
schedule, because you
Okay.
would need to address that.
Okay.
The other thing in the packet is a joint agreement between the city of St. Cloud, so they would take on the inspection. We would do the background check, but they would take on the inspection of that establishment. And they have a certain charge to cover, it's to cover their costs. So you would need to discuss, do you pass it on? Typically, that's what we do. We would pass it on to the applicant. So for example, St. Cloud will charge us $465 to do that inspection.
Okay.
You would have to decide, do you pass it on to the applicant? And then there's also the background check. We would have to determine a fee for that, and then would you pass it on? So that's up for discussion this evening, how you want to do that. Do you want to pass on that entire fee to that applicant? Do you want to do a reduced fee initially, since it is brand new? We don't have an ordinance in place.
On that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
On that, so you're saying that we do the initial, so when they come in and they apply, so the city will be doing the front end and checking them out and doing the background check and everything. And
Correct.
then it's down the road, that's when we institute St. Cloud to come in and do any other
Correct. Yes.
investigations.
They
or
are certainly
inspections.
willing to come in the front end, but at this time, we're not proposing that. We would, yes,
feel
we would take the
comfortable to-
intake to,
okay.
we take the application, do the background check. If they pass that
Okay.
background check, then it goes to the next level where St. Cloud Health Department would go in there and do
Okay.
the physical inspection.
All right, thank you.
And this all apply to new establishments,
Current and new,
Everybody will have to go through.
current and new.
correct.
Isn't there some type of grandfather clause in there?
I
Wish
would,
the attorney was here, but,
well, we worked with St. Cloud Attorney's Office in regards to that. So
right,
that was one of the
but,
things
I
that we.
question whether you can charge an established one this fee. I just question it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, if I was a therapist, I would question it myself. Because I'm already established, I've been here for 10, 15 years, all of a sudden, that's more cost of doing business. So, I'm just,
Yeah,
raising the
Go.
question.
Yes,
Can we adopt the ordinance and then take up the fee
next.
question at the next meeting? Let's just get the ordinance on the books,
yeah.
and we can figure out fees
Yeah.
as far as how much and who pays and when at a future date.
Or if they're grandfathered in or things like.
Right, and
Right.
I'm not sure how far that
Well, I think
grandfather
this would be the
clause
time to
fits.
talk about grandfathering, and I don't agree with grandfathering. I think everyone should fall under it, whether the business has been open 20 years or 6 months.
I'm just
so-
going for the legal end of it.
No, I get it. So Therese, with 3 different ordinance things here under agenda item 7, should we take them one at a time? Is that the idea?
You should take them, you'd have to take them
All right,
one at a time.
Let's move on B. I move that we adopt the ordinance as recommended by staff for therapeutic massage establishments and massage therapists, ordinance 613.
Motion and second, that's the adoption of ordinance,
2022.
2022-002. Ordinance 613. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I can move to adopt ordinance 2022-001, repealing and replacing the entirety of the ordinance 104 for the administrative penalties and fees. That's the first action.
Second?
Motion and second, adopt ordinance 2022-001, repealing and replacing all that other stuff. Questions or concerns on that? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does carry.
Could you repeat that other stuff?
I can. Entirely la ba da ba da da. Yep. All these are tongue twisters, kind of. So, so,
Yeah, so then I'll, you want to, as I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
read it. You can.
I move to, for the ordinance amendment,
Resolution.
ordinance 1004 for licensing and regulation of animals.
I second.
motion and second, resolution 2022-003, repealing and replacing 1004. All those in favor say, oh, yeah, go ahead,
Just
Bob.
one
Bob.
question.
Yeah,
Discussion
questions or
first
concerns,
before
sorry.
we vote on it.
Yeah, but nobody said anything up to this point, I was just moving.
Could you, Therese, could you highlight the changes again? You know?
And the animal, and the third.
And all of them, or
Right,
just
the
the animal?
changes. I mean,
The animal changes?
Yeah,
So we don't require dog licensing anymore. That's a big change. And then as far as, I mentioned the fostering.
so
that
how,
was-
you know, go back here. If you don't require licenses, how are you gonna enforce a rabies shot?
We're not gonna go out and enforce that.
Okay. That seems counteractive than what it is right now. To me, you know, I mean, if my dog got bit by a dog and, you know, or my kids or whatever the case may be, you know, aren't we putting ourselves in liability for not licensing dogs since we already have? You know? I mean, we're in a Sioux society.
In this case, you're still required to have the rabies. So if there was an incident like that, the
So
police
how-
department's
how-
still gonna investigate the situation, and they're still bound to have the rabies vaccination. They're still bound to
By
have,
what degree?
our ordinance states that, that's still required. So if there is a situation like you're saying, a dog bite or something, the police department's still gonna do their normal investigation of that incident. And if there's, you know, a citation because it didn't have its rabies shot, I mean, that's just part of the police investigation.
Is there a state law that requires rabies?
Our ordinance still does.
Well, if, I mean, state law dictates everything.
I'm not sure about state law in the background. I'm not positive how that, if that's
So we
written that
can
way.
adopt the state law, but we can't make it weaker. So I don't know, does the state require licensing of dogs and a rabies shot?
No?
No, many communities don't license dogs, but still require that they have rabies
But
vaccinations.
from what I'm saying, we did license, required
Right.
licenses. Now that we don't, are we opening up ourselves to a liability when something happens?
I mean,
Yeah,
we
but-
really issued only 300 dog licenses in the past, and I'm guessing there's a few more dogs than 300 in
yeah.
our community,
Right,
so
but I'm
we were
just saying, you
still,
know, now we require a license. And I'm just saying, if we don't require it, all of a sudden are reliable, you know, this is a legal question.
I think no different than we were before. We still required rabies vaccinations, so if it became a police matter, like a dog bite, they still have their recourse to take action under our ordinance that still says required vaccination, the rabies vaccination.
Yeah, and Councilman Loso, what I would say is, if I get bit by your dog, I'm not gonna sue the city, I'm gonna sue you. So I don't see the city being on the
Depending
hook.
upon where the deep pockets are. I mean, I'm just being the
No,
devil's
these are
advocate
good
here.
questions, but I think that,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing them up.
Motion and second, resolution 2022-3, the licensing and regulation of animals. Further questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. Last one.
I'll move to approve resolution 2022-005, directing summary publication.
Second, I'll motion and second to approve resolution 2022-5, summary publication. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. What's next? Oh, Randy. Oh, hey. Randy, sorry. Engineer reports.
No update for you this evening. Or
All right.
No separate report, I should say.
All right. So I have a few things to go through. Item 9, mayor reports. Bring up my little notes over here. So, the APO completed its Southwest Beltline study, and we went over it at the last month's meeting. And I put some information in front of you. You know, page 29 and the last page, we're gonna go be last, but is there a way we can show like these things up there? Ah, no big deal. These four.
The drafts?
Yeah, just the draft copies of. So if you remember, SRF came here a couple of times, got our opinion about how to create the loop, you know, through Wade Park, from Highway 1533 South and St. Cloud all the way southwest, and then through St. Joe. And they gave us several of the alternatives. They walked us through it, and we gave them some feedback. This is one of the alternatives. And then just, you can step through them however you want to. We'll put another one up there. So this is one of the alternatives as well. And if I remember right, you guys saw these when SRF came back the second time, all right? And so, and there's one more, right? Okay, so then on page 29, that's that one right there, page 29. It says, based on technical analysis completed on the public stakeholder feedback, preferred alignment southwest to County 75A2 alignment. Study partners agreed additional evaluation would be needed for the Beltline segment between County 75 and 133. There's no recommendation for locally preferred direct alignment alternative. So that means, and if you want to bring up the last map, that means all the alternatives they presented to us stop at 75. It doesn't go through industrial park, it doesn't connect to 133. There were no good recommendations or whatever. So the APO put this on hold. And we're gonna talk about what our next steps are, but they didn't vote to approve this Southwest Beltline corridor study. Randy, if you could now, you got a map ready to go? So, what I need from you counselors is, what are our next steps? Can you drive into like Quick Trip and 75 and down there? So,
Quick Trip?
yeah, close enough. So, one of the ideas was, the reason we're bringing it here now is because we want to get this on the docket. I mean, we're building out in the industrial park, and we're doing a lot of things on 21st, 24th, 18th, whatever. And the more we develop in this area, the less chance there is of becoming a corridor there. The two suggestions that were made were go from County 75 and 20th, and just zig back to 133 on 75, and there's your corridor. It doesn't have to be a direct line.
One of these, yes.
No, gee, Randy, can you show where the intersection is down there?
Which one?
County 75 and 20th?
Yep, right here.
Okay, and it goes all the way back to County 133 on 75. Goes west to 133 and then up 133, and there's your loop.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a direct route.
So it's coming from Lake Park, so 75 that way?
That's the Quick Trip on the east side.
Quick Trip, yeah.
And so one of the suggestions was to use that intersection, just take a hard left, go up to 133 and north, and there's your loop. It doesn't involve any development in the industrial park. It doesn't involve anything, except it's not straight through. That's the loop. And the other alternative was, and if you can see if you can focus in or drive in a little more, Randy?
I can.
I'm not sure what street that is, that dead ends.
Right here on 15th, or?
Yeah, that's 15th?
I'm sorry, 19th Avenue.
Yeah, 19th, if you go, go south. So the other consideration was to go to 75, take a left, and then
Add something there.
add something between the two buildings and go up 19th. Because the infrastructure's there, we would have to buy some land between that stubbed end and, County 75, but that eliminates going all the way back. That
That's
would,
Beeline right there, right?
yeah, Beeline, and there's some storage units, and I think it's, is it Minnesota Home Improvement, and they're moving?
Yep.
So, that between those buildings somehow connecting up to 19th, that's a clear path, but the bad thing is is there a water?
Our main pump station,
Is it,
you can kind of see it right here in green, so our
is that
main
the pump station?
One of our
Yeah.
main sewage pump stations for that area, or that region.
So that's the hindrance to that, to me. I mean, all the good land, it's a straight shot and all that, it just goes over our pump station, which, that doesn't really work either. So. Would that affect any future water tower? It's on public property, I think, back over here, right, by the Public Works building?
Our proposed water tower site was,
There.
was here, so it would have been outside, Ryan, of the water tower site.
So the question I have before you guys, and I know we have like 3 days before the APO meets again, is there any direction I can give them?
And I apologize. What's the first one again? So coming from 75,
Yep.
going past,
Just taking a left,
Kind of turning on.
or going west,
taking
Turning like
left.
Covert, so
going west and then going up to 133?
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy.
Yep.
Nope, go all the way back down to the beginning.
Or make it, there you go.
So what, right here?
Here at 20th Avenue.
Oh, so we're making a road behind, so that's gonna be a whole new road then?
Many of these were new alignments,
Yes.
but
Okay.
to Mayor Schultz's point, what he was describing, this would have involved existing infrastructure.
Okay, so your starting point is from Quick Trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the alignments up to this point, from 33 and 15, have been a kind of part of the study is aligned, but they stop at that intersection, 20th and
This is
20th and 75.
20th and 75. That's where the end of
Yeah, but
SRF
this is gonna be all new
recommendation
road
was.
as well. Okay.
What's the county's take on that? Have they heard that?
No, yeah, well, I don't know if Jody's seen it, but the county commissioners have seen it, and
Good.
that's why we're waiting another,
You know,
we
if,
waited a month to
if,
discuss it.
I mean, I'm talking future here, if that would happen, if that would be reality, you'd probably have, I could see an engineer putting 2 clover leaves in there.
Well, if. it were-
Randy, think about it, I mean, hypothetically.
Honestly, if it's me and we're opening up the industrial park, a quick exit south of town, out of the industrial park, is much better for our development down there. But going over the pump station's gonna be a issue. But that direct route down 19th, onto 75, and then another down 20th or whatever, the future, 20 years from now or whatever, that's the best position for our industrial park to be in.
But in either case, whether it's the alternative that goes over the pump station or whether it's the alternative that goes down to 133,
Yeah.
traffic's gonna have to take a left,
no matter what.
no matter what.
Like, straight ahead? And go where?
That's what my thought is. Could you go somewhere through here?
Yeah, and those were 3 of the alternatives. I mean, I'll gladly take that back then. I think if you look at the alternatives, all these blue lines and gray lines, they did. They segmented our
So
industrial
you're
park.
saying,
Yep.
oh, come back,
Sorry.
come back. So
What?
Trying to go across.
We'd have
right
to buy the right.
here,
Yep.
okay.
I feel like even at the far end of that industrial park, doesn't it just go to a dead end too in the far right?
Yeah, you know, each
Right
one of these,
there.
each one of these alternatives with the red and blue lines, I think, that are part of the handout.
That
were-
goes through
They
there,
go
there.
through our park.
Right,
Yeah,
they were
this one.
they were dissecting our industrial park one way or another. And they absolutely could, but then you're cutting off, you know, Amcon or Knife River and just slicing them down the middle, which is really gonna hurt business. I mean, it's just, I agree, the straight line is great, but it just, we've already established there. And that's why looking at the open land that we do have, sans the pump station.
So but if
what
you
does
take
co-
it back there, what does it cost?
What does it
Yeah.
cost to move a pump station?
Well, in today's environment, that might be $1 to $2 million, but.
We're not doing that, boys.
You know, that's probably close to $1 million.
Mayor, what I'm saying is, could you just go straight across 75
Yeah?
into Industrial Park East, take it all the way to the end, and then you're gonna connect up to the parkway?
So you're saying to the far right?
How far? Yeah, I don't think we ever went back that far.
So that is one of, if I can switch to the,
Go ahead, I don't remember seeing anything going east on 138. Or is it 138,
to
130,
the,
134?
this drawing here is what I wanted to load.
Yeah?
So the dashed red line here is what Mayor Schultz was describing,
Yeah.
using existing alignments. County Road 133 and 75.
Yep.
This one here is the 19th Avenue alignment that.
That's the
that
pump
you
station
were
one?
describing, that's the
That's
pump
the pump
station
station
one.
Yeah.
This alignment here was favoring what would be 24th Avenue, so that's the road that's not yet built in
I
the
know.
industrial park.
But that's the one we just talked about where Trobex is kind of going?
On
Yeah,
the
back
east
area.
area, on
It
the
would
east side of
dissect,
Trobex.
it would
Yep.
dissect our industrial
So
park.
all the dotted lines are new roads that they're not existing.
With the
Potential.
exception of this leftmost one.
Yeah, and a portion of the 19th is already there.
And that's one of the criteria that, you know, the consultant was evaluating is to build new roads obviously costs money and to acquire right-of-way costs money. And
Yep.
so that is why using existing alignments, you know, from a cost consideration was still
Yeah.
a viable option, if you
Yeah, you
would.
think-
Was the option of going around, or do we want it to, is that the conversation, is that you want it to go through St. Joseph? Or just following the highway to the new,
Well, the-
what's that road that we get off on 94 that comes into St. Joe? I apologize
Yep.
for not
Yeah.
knowing these. Yes, 2, and then going up 2 and coming around that way. That was not approached, or?
that kind of
That's
outside,
existing.
it was outside the study area, so they never went that far.
Okay.
Where I was going, to address Ryan's comment, so here's, can you see the gray? It's a little
Yep.
faint on my screen
Yep.
here, but there's St. Joseph
East.
Business Park East. And so these other two alignments were actually east of the city.
Yep.
So this one would have come out by Pearl Drive, or the end of Pearl Drive, and come up to 133, and then obviously this one was even further east along the west side of St. Cloud. So you kind of had at least 4 different new build alignments between St. Joseph and the
Yep.
west side of St. Cloud, all of which had various cost and/or environmental or business consequences.
So Kelly, to answer your question, the goal of this eventually will be to go from the south side of St. Cloud, looping all the way west, and then eventually going all the way around north through like 5 Points through
Right, like the
Sartell.
cities.
Yep, a big loop
Yeah.
around the outside.
That's what I was just asking, is if we're looking at existing, if we're looking at cost, but if that wasn't brought to the table of going that way, then we are looking at
What-
some nice chunk of change.
What the goal is actually to get it dedicated. If we're thinking about putting in new roads or adding to our existing infrastructure, then dedicated so that new people coming in will say, that's where the new road's gonna go. If we're using existing roads like 75 to 133, then really we just have to say, that's where we're gonna go. But if we're thinking about dedicating new roads somewhere, then we have to tell them, and we can push that forward to say, we have to dedicate this, because this is, if somebody builds, they have to know that the corridor is going here at bedtime.
Didn't we talk about though, okay, so if you take a left at 75 and then a right 33, take a right there by the Coburn's McDonald's, there's already a lot of problems there. with traffic coming in.
Yep.
I know we talked about, well, there might be a roundabout, something going to the left. How does that entail if all of a sudden that's the way you're gonna go, and now you're shoving more traffic that way?
And we are, that's on their plan, right? It's the county's plan to expand 133 and the county 75 intersection along
Yes.
with the roundabout at
In
Elmwood.
2024,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So, yeah, and this will,
Right.
yeah, how long it's gonna take.
Think about the longevity of this in
Yeah.
terms of how
Right.
long it would take to build, so it's certainly not to say that there wouldn't be other corridor improvements, for example.
Right. If that's the way they go.
If that's the way it
Okay.
developed.
Well, that 19th is proposed to be changed by the county somehow in the future.
The city's 19th Avenue?
Yeah,
Not that I'm aware of.
Isn't somewhere on 133, we discussed it before at council. There's
The Westwood Parkway?
some project going on 133 that we jumped on board with the county.
That's one in the same here that Mayor Schultz is questioning.
Yep.
So 2024, the county has federal funding programmed for a widening improvement from County Road 75 up to 15th Avenue.
Up to 15th, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
So are we gonna give the mayor
Yeah.
some direction, council, on, I mean, my sense is, just from a cost standpoint, use existing, even though from a traffic pattern standpoint, it's not ideal, but I'm just not, unless someone can persuade me otherwise, wanting to dedicate road out of our industrial park, across a pump station and all this other stuff.
I don't disagree with you. I don't think the pump station's the right way, but, you know, you're talking, what about far east of those other ones? Is that a possibility? Or,
yeah, east up through
And what
like
would
Pearl
that
Road,
cost?
yeah, but again, I'm not sure how far does Corey's land go in the new industrial park? Is that on the very edge of that?
That probably would cross this one here by Pearl Drive, I
Yeah.
think. I can tell you.
But Randy, if the roads were designed on those two far east, north, wouldn't the beltway then come up to 75 and people would take a right and then a left?
Yeah, we would have an
Either way, the beltway's gonna end where the beltway's gonna end.
The Beltway will either end,
Yeah.
or will end
Touche.
at the
Quick
north,
Trip.
north corridor.
Right.
Well, Quick Trip, the north corridor, as well as County Road 133.
But if we go with those two options to the east, then the traffic is gonna have to take a right-hand turn
Yeah, and then
and
the
then
left.
go up. So why not just use what's already there? Take a left-hand turn and go to 133 and go up.
but
That's
maybe
my
you give them
point.
another option,
So.
and they have two.
And think about
Instead of
the
one.
Slicing
study,
our industrial
Correct.
park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
think
just
about
trying
the
to
study limits in this discussion. Bear in mind, you're looking at connections between County Road 75 and all the way south to Trunk Highway 15 at 33rd. So you're talking about maybe one specific turning movement that travelers might be, getting off at either 75 or another location. But, the destination was to link all the way down to Trunk Highway 15.
And this really does that. We're trying to complement from 75 to continue the loop north so they can go all the way and start the northern route.
But are we saying the dark red line, the solid red line can then change and be more aligned to the east to hook up to those two on the east?
Well, I think with the consultant's analysis, the solid red line, there seemed to be the most
Yeah,
consensus
yeah,
that this is the
got it.
preferred alignment.
Right.
There was, as you can tell, less consensus once we got to 75.
But they did have an option.
Yeah, go down to
That's this
133.
one, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
I
what
would
he's
have to
saying.
agree with Council Kevin.
Don't have an argument.
Trying to stay as much as we can on already existing. However, I do hear John giving that two options.
I would support going from 75, going west, and then north up 133.
Okay,
And, I agree with that too, obviously with more studies coming or the
I know.
roundabouts in 2024. But again, I'm not opposed to, again, having a second route if it's optional. But again, then what's the cost? What does it entail? Now you got two different routes, just
Yeah.
a thought.
and again,
I think one constraint too, going to the east on south of 75 is there's significant wetlands
Yeah.
throughout that and lowlands.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
That'll slice up our buffer between that world and our world.
Yeah. Anyway, because SRF
We don't
had
wanna connect
come here a
that.
couple of times, and we'd given them
Who's the
feedback, and
property
to me, it came in less than appropriate for completing the live drive north. I thought you guys should at least have a say in seeing
Yeah.
what we should do and if there's any alternatives. So I'm gonna go back with, like, unless somebody else on the APO has something else, I'm gonna go back with west on 75, north on 133. Okay, okay, thank you. All right, item 2. No, item 2 in my report. So, Alex is here tonight, and we're gonna talk about the APO Active Transportation Plan. You guys, I gave you this kind of a wing. I don't have anything here to hand out, but I think
Didn't you send it?
I might have sent it, I'm not sure. Yeah, Alex, you wanna talk about the active transportation plan? That's all right. It's about alternatives for, trails and bikes and connecting the different pieces. And we talked about this a couple of months ago. I knew it was coming. And that's where I sent all the trail information. We had like 3 different trail documents, maybe 4. And then this one came out from the APO, and I said, we should really get our heads together and figure out, their plan versus our plan. And I think it's best done at the park board and maybe with Ryan or you and Rhonda going over all the documents and saying, this is where the gaps are and this is where we'd like to see our priorities. And then taking that back to the APO saying, this is what we think is right.
So,
So
Mayor
I'm
Schultz.
kind of asking if, yeah.
We have a staff meeting on Thursday to kind of go through some of the documents and priorities that were laid out in the past and kind of have that discussion
Okay.
internally. And that's with, Rhonda, Therese, Ryan, Randy, myself, so.
So can you make that, Kelly? Can you make that meeting?
When is it, Thursday?
When were you gonna do it?
Thursday, 10 o'clock.
I could.
Try to make that. So again, it's best for us to complete our own individual, based on the 4 maps or 4 trail maps we already have going on here, the master park plan, the transportation guide, the blah, 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 just to get a feel for where we think we should be, and then compare that to the active, APO's active transportation plan, and then come back to them with here's where our priorities really are. That sound okay? I don't mean to assign you guys work, but that would be my best. All right, item 3. So, legislative sessions just started, and we've talked to, Teresa and I talked to Representative Demuth, Senator Howe. I also talked to Representative Tice about putting in a bonding request, legislative request, for East Park bonding. We did it in 2018. At that time, Representative Howe just produced a bill legislation through legislative process that was gonna allocate money for bonding. Now, I just went back to 2018, picked out that legislative request. I gave it to Therese. I don't know if Nate, were you copied on that? Okay, I gave it to you only, maybe? Okay. Anyway, so what I'd like the council to kind of approve is give staff direction to get that legislative material ready so we can give it to both Representative Demuth and Senator Howe, and they can push the bill in this session.
East Park, is that the park to the south?
East Park, yeah, that's the park to the south. It's the
Okay.
southeast park by the Sauk River. I didn't name it, I just know where it is. And anyway, we talked about it, so they're kind of expecting us to send a bill through. We heard 2 things out of the legislative process. Number 1, it's a $7.7 billion surplus. They're probably gonna spend a lot on infrastructure. They're probably gonna spend a lot of money if there's a bonding bill at all. But the betting Republicans are saying, we don't have to do a bonding bill, and if we don't do a bonding bill, they're gonna wait till see the midterm elections or the next year's elections, see who wins the majority.
So
So-
why wouldn't we want to do this?
Wait? No, we do wanna do this.
Yeah,
We wanna get our name
Let's
out there
go.
as often as we can. Well, I need your approval. I
you
don't,
got it.
I can't tell them to.
You need a motion?
Yeah, we do. We need a motion to submit legislative bonding, or legislative bonding for East Park.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to submit some bonding requests through the legislative process. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mayor Schultz.
Yes, sir.
Just one note on that. At the last park board meeting, we also talked about pursuing grant for East Park as well through the DNR. So we are formulating quotes for that for some of the phase one. So there may be a resolution that gets presented to council early March, and that's a 50% match grant request for
Yeah.
that. So just to,
Yep.
so everyone is aware.
And so Representative Tice also told me about, and I think I sent you this, the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund? Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm talking about a different source. So this one would be through the DNR Outdoor Rec Grant Program.
You should
but,
look at that.
yep.
It's Minnesota Environment Natural Trust Fund. It's not a bonding request. It's a trust fund managing DNR or water resources.
So in an ideal world, if we get all this money, what do we envision that park to have for amenities? What have we been talking about?
And we have,
Trails, canoe
have a-
access.
yeah, we've kind of modified. it. I think the first section is like canoe cleanup, parking, something like that.
Potential boardwalk,
Yeah.
some unique amenity.
Right, Nate has,
Buckthorn. Yeah, the first page is getting rid of the buckthorn.
Okay.
Just a point of procedural procedure.
Okay,
If it's not on the agenda, we can't vote on it. But you got the consensus to.
okay, yeah,
I don't know
we
if you
talked
wanna
about that.
follow up with that. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yep, I totally agree. We shouldn't have, but we talked about that, how to fit it in, so that's my oops. Okay, some news. The Highway Safety Improvement Program, St. Joe, we were awarded $500,000 to do the roundabout at County 2 in Minnesota.
Okay. Update on that. Okay.
So that's, do you remember the year? 2020?
I was thinking it was 2026.
Yeah, but depends on, yeah, it's a ways out, but at least we got that, we entered the pool and we won.
That's money in the bank, huh?
Well, we're gonna,
It's money that's directed toward Sturts County and used.
Right,
Yeah.
got it.
Part
Yeah.
of this 500, we have to spend 3 million. It's one of those deals.
might be. Well, we'll ask for some more
Well,
grants.
no, wait, I mean, the county's gonna spend 2.5.
I think the language we had in that was, we have to buy most of the right of way, don't we? Additional right of way. Yeah.
The hope is that we can
Yeah.
position that roundabout in the existing county road
Yeah.
dedication, but there's usually some on the corners, if you will.
Is there a minimum and maximum for a roundabout?
Yeah, there are kind of minimum and maximum designs, in terms of truck traffic and type of traffic. we
Okay.
go through them, but,
All variables kind of dictate what you gotta have.
yes.
Do we
Hey.
have a roundabout in our city yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Are we
Well,
trying to?
that'll be a big deal. We'll have a big ribbon cutting when we have our first roundabout.
Yeah, we'll see who takes a left instead of a right, something like that. Okay. I mean, a right instead of a left, whatever. So the last bit of information I have is that the Parker and Liz, who are from the CSB SJU Senate, have asked for a town hall, a mayor town hall, and I've invited Dwight to come along. It's going to be at the end of February at Brother Willie's Pub on campus. It's really a more casual setting, but I've asked Kevin to be there because he wants to participate and listen to what we get complained about. So Dwight and I kind of prepare for some of the questions we're gonna get. We're not trying to be, we said they're not gonna put us on the spot, but they did the last time we did this. And so Dwight and I'll get together about preparing some statements and stuff. But if there's something you guys want to bring to them, I'd like to hear what it is. I always ask, what's the city doing right, what's the city doing wrong, where do we need to invest, what do you guys see from your point of view, and then just have open question and answer. So if there's something you want me to bug them about, please let me know.
This is the Student Senate.
It's a student body, they're gonna broadcast it in like the Record or something, come out to Mayor Town Hall, and last time I was at Brother Willie's, they were hanging from the rafters, so, that's all I have. Any questions or concerns?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Now, Mayor report. You were right, Bob. I never thought about it. We talked about how to get that on the agenda. Because, you're right. Nope, you're right.
You know, there might be.
Well, you probably